Well, the world has still gone nutty, buddy, even downright cruddy, buddy. Wish I missed the past, buddy, but there's still Buddycast. No, don't be naughty, go meet a buddy here on Buddycast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and host of Buddycast, Nick Sorensen.
Grief, it's another episode of everybody's favorite show, Buddycast. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen. Thank you for joining us today, and please give a big Buddycast welcome to my new buddy, Brad Kesten. How you doing, Brad?
Doing fantastic. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing fabulous. I've always wanted to talk to Charlie Brown, and now's my opportunity, you know?
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So I got to start from the beginning, man. What inspired you to go into acting?
Nothing really inspired me. My mom got me into it. When I was about 8 years old, we had just moved here from New Jersey, and we were really doing the kind of tourist thing. Went to Burt Reynolds' house, and she kicked me out of the car and made me, ring the bell and see if he's there. And just one of the things that we did was she always wanted to go to, there's a restaurant, the Commissary restaurant at Universal Studios. It's like the studio, not the tour part. Uh-huh. And back in those days, you could really just walk onto the studio. There really wasn't much of a guard situation, like more like a Barney Fife kind of guard. And went to lunch, and some guy had asked my mom, and I actually have a picture of it, which I just found about a couple months ago, of the guy. And he'd asked my mom, like, am I an actor? And I think it was just kind of a curiosity thing that got my mom thinking, why not? And somehow she had gotten Shirley Jones and Marty Ingalls, who were kind of, Marty Ingalls was a producer and in casting, and everyone knows who Shirley Jones is. And somehow she met with them, and Shirley gave me, my mom, a list of kind of top children's agents in Hollywood. And she submitted my Little League baseball picture that I had. It's a really cute picture. It looks like a commercial picture. Submitted that out, and just everybody, it sounds like silly, but everybody wanted to meet me. So we met with a bunch of agents and picked a really good one. And that was pretty much the beginning of everything. So it was kind of just snowballed from there. But I remember it all, and it's kind of just weird to think back on it.
Do you recall your first role?
First role, not really. I mean, there were so many, I did a whole bunch of modeling stuff, for catalogs, and I think my first commercial was a McDonald's commercial, but I did 7 of them. So it's kind of I don't know what it was, but I do remember I was so bad, not in the commercial, but the casting process. My first casting call was for, it was the California Department of Motor Vehicles. It was an industrial commercial thing. And on the cue card in front of the camera, it said boy, and then semicolon, and then the line, you really want to feel good, belt someone. And it was click, that kind of thing. And then some girl would say the same thing. And I was saying, boy, you really want to feel good? And they're like, no, Brad, don't say boy, that's you. And I'm like, oh, okay, boy. And I did it 3 times in a row, like a dumbass. And then they're like, okay, thank you very much. And it stuck with me in my head that it's just so stupid that I was so nervous and I didn't know what I was doing. And then from there, all I remember my whole life is I was on commercial classes after school, drama classes. If there's a class for something, I was going to one Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days a week, interviews and then classes, interviews and classes, and never made that mistake again. But it's nerve-wracking. Yes. It's silly as hell, nerve-wracking.
Now, as a Peanuts fan, I've got to ask, how did you find the role of Charlie Brown?
It was just another interview. It was just literally I was going on about 4 a day. And it seems like a lot. it's a lot. And you're working the averages, like how many, if you go on 4 a day, per week, you should get 2 to 3 every single week, and it should roll like that. It was just an interview, and you go in, show up, they call you, you go into a booth, you read a few lines, you leave. If they like you, they call you back, and they call you back again. What I didn't know, and I found out from other actors that I knew, that went on it and that I'm still friends with, that I guess it was this massive, like, all across the country casting call in New York and Chicago and LA. And I didn't know. It's just another day in the city. There, if I had $1 for every amazing role that I didn't get, I'd be a millionaire. So it was just kind of another part. You interview for, you roll the dice, you hope you're the right person for the role, and you find out that you got the part.
And before that, and to this day, were you a Peanuts fan, and are you a Peanuts fan now?
I was a Peanuts fan, but kind of just the way everybody is a Peanuts fan. Like, at the time, I wasn't obsessed with it. I read the funny, the Sunday comics and the books and the stuff that's just kind of out there. You had dolls and things like that, but I'm not really obsessive. And as far as, like, am I a fan now? I'm really the same fan. Like, I still watch the holiday shows if I can, now that's on Apple or, whatever. I do the best I can to watch them when they're on. My fan, like, me being a fan of it is different now, because it's kind of me. Like, so the things that I love about it are the things that are mine. You know what I mean? Like there's 70 years of Peanuts and stuff, but I don't follow the shows from the 90s, 2000s. I don't watch Apple. I don't watch the Snoopy show, because I'm a fan of the Charlie Brown and Snoopy show. So it's kind of weird to watch. Go ask the Lord of the Rings guys, are they going to watch, like, do they watch the new ones? And they're kind of like, no. Are they a fan of it? They'll say they are, but they're really partial to their own stuff because it's so personal to them, and it's their memories. And I'm friends with other Charlie Browns and other Lucys and Peppermint Patties, and they all feel the exact same way. They love it all, and they love all the other characters and the people that played them, but they're very protective and partial to their own personal experience.
So you're very loving of your Charlie Brown.
Oh yeah, and I'm loving of the character. I love everything about the character, but other shows, not really. It's not, and it's completely personal. It's not professional. It's like the opposite of what somebody would say. It's not professional. Professionally, I love it all, but it's a personal, each show and experience, whether somebody did one, or like myself and a few others spent years doing different projects for them. It's a very personal thing, because these people are my family. So it's like, I think I know 4 other Charlie Browns and 3 Lucys and 2 Peppermint Patties, and we all kind of treat our own people as family. Like, I know Charlie Brown, it's his Lucy, and it's his Peppermint Patty, and there's mine, and there's this, and it's kind of all a big fraternity.
Do you still keep in touch with your people, with your Charlie, with your, like, Peppermint Patty, with your Lucy?
Yes, I was closer with them all before COVID. We all, like, before COVID, we were all hanging out at each other's houses, and they were the Angela Lee Sloan, who played Lucy, for years, decades. Like, we'd go over to her house and hang out, and she had this amazing backyard, and she's a musician, and they play with the band. And since COVID, no. So it's the answer is kind of, we all still know each other. I've known her. I've known the majority of that cast since I was 9, because we all went on interviews together, and we were all the same age, kind of coming up in Hollywood at the same time. But since COVID, it's just a whole other. So, I mean, as you know, being social with people takes on a whole new meaning now. We're just now starting to open up, and so it's even like with conventions, going to, like, Comic-Con. I'm not doing anything this year. This is the first year where I'm considering starting to go again.
That was going to be one of my questions. Do you have any upcoming Comic-Con appearances or?
No, not this year.
Mm.
I'm starting to get some set up. I did 2 last year, but locally, just like one of them was San Diego and one of them was Los Angeles. It was just really sketchy to everybody that I knew that went came back sick. So it was kind of, is it worth it? And they had these huge screens and everyone's wearing masks and nobody's showing up. And so it was kind of, do I want to go to Detroit? Do I want to go to New York? And I just said, no, I'll wait till next year. So I think I'm going to go kind of go all out next year. I've got pops. Nice. I've got stuff stacked up.
So if like a convention saying here in Erie, Pennsylvania, where to contact you or something like that.
Totally go. Oh no, totally. It's now and moving forward. I'm completely open. It's just also like a lot of them changed from Saturday, Sunday to Friday, Saturday. And it's just trying to get things balanced out with work and how many.
Yeah. Whoops. Did we lose you?
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Phew.
Ooh, thought I lost you.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, did we just lose him?
No, we did not. It's like I said, a call came in, and I'm just like, decline.
Yeah. Phew. But yeah, so
yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
So when you were younger, how did you get into the character of Charlie Brown? Like, what was your MO?
As far as just like before recording, things like that. Really, it's just like, especially Charlie Brown. My voice was basically the same as what Charlie Brown was. It was very low, very kind of depressing kind of sound, and it was kind of easy. It was kind of me. It's kind of, I felt that I was the part, and I was kind of born to play that role. It was it was a really easy, fun role for me to do.
Nice.
So there wasn't a lot of prep for it. It was like the first one that I did. I remember being in the studio, and Lee Mendelson, who was the producer, would read it with you, and he would have the lines, and he would go in and say like, gee, Lucy, you're terrible. And I would literally repeat like a parrot, gee, Lucy, you're terrible. And then he would go through, and after that first like 2-3 pages, you're on your own, and it was just easy for me. So
nice.
It was fun.
Now I got a little game we should play. It's called Game of Favorites.
All right.
How about, what was your favorite episode to record? Do you remember, of Charlie Brown and Snoopy show?
I don't really have a favorite episode. The whole thing, I like the entire series. They're all kind of the basis of the series. They were vignettes, short vignettes based word for word on the Sunday comic strips. So the whole series was really a favorite of mine of anything that we did, because unlike any other special or movie or anything else, this was the only thing that's based on Charles Schultz's actual work. People don't realize that he really didn't have any say in how the show was being produced or written at all. It was all done through Bill Melendez and Lee Mendelson and their production company. They wrote it, produced it, and directed it. So he was actually on set with us, not on set, in the recording studio, and remember looking through the glass in front and seeing him there, and he would spend the weeks with us, and being able to actually talk with them and kind of be a part of that, and actually just have, not just meet him, but spend weeks with him is just kind of the blow your mind moment for me. It's nobody else. And I've had conversations with other characters from other times, and nobody met him. People not only didn't meet him, but didn't spend any time. And that kind of blew my mind. Like, oh my God, how did you never meet him? And they're like, well, he never showed up. And I have these pictures and all these memories with him. And it's just kind of, to me, that's special. It's kind of, it kind of transcends like what one specific episode or special. It was a whole like 2 years of being a part of something special. Like there's the Christmas special and there's the Halloween special. And to me, those are the two things that make up the foundation of Charlie Brown. For me, stuff that had nothing to do with me, the stuff in the 60s before I was even born. That's the foundation. And that was my foundation, is actual Charles Schulz work and being a part of that. That's just a completely surreal kind of situation for me. Did that really happen? Like, yeah, like I have all these cool memories and pictures, and just a kind of a cool, I don't know, it's kind of a cool thing.
So what about you? Yeah. What about your favorite Charlie Brown quote?
It's always like it'll be on my graves. Good grief will be on my headstone when I'm dead. There's zero doubt about it. I use it in my everyday, like just jargon. I don't remember it by heart, but it's the opening for "You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown." Of like, I can't remember it. I don't know it by heart anymore, but the sun's coming up and it's this, like, it's a kind of a little mini monologue about just getting up in the morning. There's not really a specific thing that I have that stands out. There's a lot of things. There's a few paragraphs here and there, but good grief has kind of always been my war cry.
I gotta say, I was watching an episode of Charlie Brown's Snoopy Show. I think it was the one where Snoopy breaks his leg, and
okay,
yeah,
I'm trying to remember which.
It's like Snoopy broke his leg, and then you needed a extra player, so you contact Peppermint Patty, who
there you go
tries to like snake you basically and say, "Here's my best player," which is our worst player, but your best player. But
that's a good. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll always be a fan of the line, "Why can't I have a normal dog like everyone else?"
Everybody else.
Yeah.
There's just some certain classic lines that it doesn't surprise me that it carries throughout the decades. Those are kind of my favorite lines, where they've been said since the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, even I tried giving some of the new shows. I watched the French one. It was called the Snoopy. It wasn't the Snoopy Show. It was some kind of Charlie Brown thing, but it was done in France. It was like 2010s, and they're still doing the same thing. So I don't know if kids get it nowadays, but those are kind of classic lines. So I'm glad that they're still holding it, and it still makes sense.
What about a good favorite behind the scenes story?
Behind, like, outside of the studio,
yeah,
I like that myself, Bill Melendez, who was there? Bill Melendez, Lee Mendelson, Charles Schulz, I think Christopher. Which Charlie? There was like two other Charlie. Todd Barbie. I'm trying to remember who was there. Todd Barbie, myself. It's like three other Charlie Browns. So we broke ground on Camp Snoopy. So like I remember, like, it was just all dirt and nothing there, and it was like the shovel, and we got pictures done for the newspaper. And I think I was Charlie Brown for like maybe 6 months, 7 months. So I was like the new kid on the scene, and with three adult Charlie Browns, and that was kind of a cool moment. And the paper, just being in the news. I mean, this is before internet, so being like a quarter page ad in the newspaper and in your local paper and the LA Times, and having those experiences. So I mean, with those other behind the scenes moments, is we used to do like reunions every few years. Everyone with producers would bring everyone to Knott's Berry Farm, and usually would be about 60 former players, just Pepper and Patty's and Marcy's and Lucy's and a few Charlie Browns. And so kind of getting to see your friends and, kind of just hang out with not people that you didn't know, but like I've said it before and I'll say it 1,000 times, it's a fraternity. Anyone that was part of that they're nodding their head. They're like, yup, because there's a bond, because we all have a shared experience. So few, I mean, there's a handful of Charlie Browns that have the experience that I had. And there's, the same thing with Lucy's, and of all the Charlie Browns, I would say there's only maybe 3 that can relate to half the stories that I have. Some of them just did one. They did one episode and it was a one and done, where it was just a job and they moved on and they don't even think about it. They don't, it's just part of their life. It was a one moment where, God, with me, it was how many years? It was 5 years of my life, and through musicals and commercials and specials and a series, and it just kept going on until they have a rule where if you can drive yourself to the studio, you're done. Bye. And by 15, that was it for me. I didn't even look. I was practically an adult. Because I had gotten, I was emancipated at 15, so I could work longer hours on set, and I was an adult. So at that point, my voice sounded like Peter Brady, was cracking away, and there was no way I was going to be able to do it anymore.
I was about to ask, do you think you could give us a little demonstration or something like that?
It was, I do sound like it, and I don't. It's sounding like it is like this. I'd be like, gee, Lucy, how are you going to go to the baseball diamond today? Good grief. Sounds like it, but it just really...
Like I was about to say, I hear a tint of it. Like I can
hear
that.
Tint, if going, like when I listen to it, I'm a kid. I got the role when I was like 11 and a half. So it's, it's a lot of, in the past, packs of cigarettes and shots of tequila later.
Yep.
Adulthood is a different story. So I like to say that my voice is the same, but just a grown up version. I can hear myself, my daughter can pick me out from all the other ones. So it's still the same, but unfortunately now it sounds more like, you sound more like Charlie Brown's, like the grown-ups in the TV show. I'm Charles Brown.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
What lesson do you think being Charlie Brown taught you the most?
I learned I was doing voiceover work before Charlie Brown and during and after, but all that time spent in the studio is how to do voice work. And that's really where I learned from the professionals, popping your P's and how to properly use a mic and breathe. And it was an education. It doesn't really hold together today. It's a little bit different, but I think, and reading, kids ask what do I need to know? And I'm like, you need to know how to read, and not just read, but like read something and then be able to turn your head, not look at the page, and just almost already memorize your line and then going from the next line. And so you're not sounding like you're reading something. It may sound small to some people, but it's knowing how to read your lines is so key. That's all you do in like drama class and learning how to just run lines. It's really, really difficult, especially for an adult, maybe not so, but for a kid, yeah, it takes a lot of practice, and I got a lot of practice. I spent a lot of days in there, and the greatest thing about that is work begets work. So from that, there were so many other roles, like I did so much stuff with Universal and Steven Spielberg Productions, and it's all like from that. I just did so much more voiceover work into my teens.
Love it.
Yeah, I learned everything from that. I was kind of I felt like an amateur until that, and spending that many years in the studio with like just legends. So
wow,
cool. It was fun.
I wanted to ask a follow-up question. You mentioned earlier you spent time with Charles Schultz.
Yes.
What was he like to you? Like, what was he? You touched on it a little bit, but tell us a little bit more.
He was like a quiet grandpa. I didn't understand. I knew who he was. He's the boss and he's responsible, but I wasn't. If I say I wasn't a fan, it's not that I didn't work, like I wasn't amazed with him, but I've never been a starstruck person. There's like maybe 5 people in my entire life where I just freak out over, like, oh my God. It wasn't him. And it's not like in a disrespectful way. It's in a 11-year-old, like, hi, how are you being a professional? And
it's not like if it was today, where if you would say like,
oh
hey,
my
that's
God,
my
I'd lose my mind. I'd be like, holy, you are my childhood. But I was a child and I'm an actor and you're professional and you're not. I don't fanboy over. I fanboyed over Gil Gerard from Buck Rogers.
Mhm.
Older, like, meeting Duncan MacLeod from Highlander and, stuff like that. That's cool to me. But otherwise, it's kind of, they're just people and they're just doing a job. And I got to spend time with the guy. And that was the cool thing is I got to actually get to know him, and I got to know his wife, and I got to know his kids, and I got to see him on a daily basis. And he became human as opposed to just the quiet guy, just sitting, doodling away. And just, he wasn't the boss. He became a human being. And I take away those memories of getting to know him and knowing knowing Gene and knowing there's so few people that can say that. And I kind of became a fan from that and paid more attention to what Charlie Brown was. And just once I got the part, then I just did like a deep dive into everything. Started collecting stuff. I got tons of like 80s Charlie Brown gear in like boxes. I'd buy it, put it like the way you're supposed to. Don't take it out of the box. And it's in a box and it's like wrapped and sealed. And, my kids will do a deep dive when I'm dead and they'll enjoy it. It's just, I just did my research in the 80s and the research was consumerism. I bought stuff. I bought dolls and I've got, I got a whole bunch of stuff. And it's because it was just, you get a part. So you just start buying all the Charlie Brown stuff at the Hallmark store and no internet. So you got to actually go out and get it. So it was all like Hallmark.
Hey, you're talking to a man who probably has like 100 Snoopies in his attic or
there
something.
You go. That's what I'm saying. It's like I have like a bookcase of keeps like Charlie Brown, the keepsake stuff from Hallmark, but it's all stuff from like the late 80s and early 90s. And yeah, it was you're almost like buying your own stuff. That's what I was really doing at the time. I was buying stuff that had to do with my show and my era.
That's
I don't have
awesome.
anything I don't have any Christmas stuff. I don't have any Halloween stuff. It's all just, it's specific era based gear. All it's like 80s. It's all 80s.
You're telling me you don't have the bed sheet with the holes on it or anything like that,
No, that's too creepy. It's too weird, man. I don't know about running around with a sheet on your head nowadays. Like I've never, I didn't, I tried it once and it just, nobody knew who I was at that time. If I did it now and I was running around with a sheet with a whole bunch of holes holding a rock, maybe, some people would get it. I don't know, but no, I never.
Depends on the generation,
I've got, yes, that's exactly it. I've got a whole bunch. Like I swore to myself I would never wear a yellow zigzag shirt, and I've got like this awesome one. I was going to wear it. I wish I would have. This woman online does tie dye, and it's a yellow, this amazing, cool zigzag tie dye shirt. It's really, really nice. So I bought one of those, and it's like that's the closest I've ever gotten to. I just can't stand the zigzag shirt. I can't do it. I like it, but not on. I just never been able to wear one. I don't think I've ever worn one publicly. But the tie-dye one was really, really cool. Couldn't say that one.
Nice. Hey, we have a quick question from the audience, if you don't mind.
Of course not. Not at all.
Have you ever met Bob West before, the voice of Barney?
Bob West?
Yep.
Not Billy West. I met Billy West. I've never met. I'm trying to think if I ever met. I have not met Bob. I can do a hell of a Barney impression, but I've never met. No, I have not met him.
Nice.
I am not. Sorry about that.
No problem. Can you do your Barney impression?
Oh, I love you. I'm trying to remember. Did I ever run into him? No, I did not. Billy West a few times, yes, but not Bob.
Yeah. So I've got 2 more questions for you to make this an official Buddycast.
Bring it on.
The first one is brought to us by my buddy Jonas Kane at #Positivity. He wants to know, in your own words, what does it mean to be someone's buddy?
I think what means to be someone's buddy is unconditional friendship. That's very, very rare nowadays. I think of all of the friends that I've ever had in my life, the only ones that matter to me, I mean, really matter, are the friends that I've had since I was a kid. They're the ones that have always been there. They're the ones that, catch you when you fall. And they've, with very, very few exceptions, they've always been there for me. The guys from when I was a kid, I'm still friends with my buddies from high school. And I use the word buddy like that's how it is. They're my buddies. I don't really have new friends because nowadays it's difficult to trust a lot of people. Not that, like, what do they want from me? And it takes a lot of years until you know what they want. And usually, and you find out they just want to be your buddy. They just want to go out and have a drink with you. Let's go, call my friend, call my buddy Jason. Hey man, let's go see a flick. Okay. And we go, and we've been seeing movies together since we were 17. And that's a buddy. I think just someone that will love you unconditionally. Cause what was the old saying? Like, oh God. And I'll use the word buddy in it. I think I'm going to screw it up, but it's like, you've heard the saying, like I don't know, like a real true friend will help you hide the body. There's that saying. It's like I have friends that, like, we joke around. They're the ones that would help me hide the body. Mm-hmm. They're there for me for everything. They're just, they don't want anything from me.
Or like the saying, a good friend is like someone who will bail you out of jail. A good buddy will be the one, or the best buddy will be the one sitting next to you going, that was fun.
There we go. Yeah. The same thing. That's your buddy. That's, he does. My friends don't want anything from me. We don't know anything other than that's my boy. Yeah. And that's your buddy.
And hey, you've got a whole new buddy right here. So.
Thanks, man.
All righty. One more question I have for you.
Go for it.
Called the ultimate Buddycast buddy question.
Go for it.
Ready for this one. So, for anyone out there who wants to be a voiceover actor or just an actor in general, what's your advice to them?
Best advice, we were just talking about it, which is, and I just can't stress it enough, be a really good reader and know how to memorize. If you can't memorize things, you're in trouble. I would say there's a lot of things that you can download online, like different scenes, run scenes, and do it into a video camera. Do it into the mirror. See if you look stupid, because if you do, you're doing it right. That's really it. It's don't take yourself seriously. There's so many, like, I could literally sit here for an hour and just ramble off things that you need to do. Take an improv class, become familiar with how stupid everybody is and how stupid you are. And don't take yourself, we're all just ridiculous. It's just human beings. And once you take yourself seriously, you're lost. Just have fun. If you go on an interview, you're going to be told no. And again and again and again. And like I said, if I had $1, I went out for E.T. I went out for if I had $1 for every role through the 80s that I didn't get, if I took it seriously, I would have just cried myself into a pillow every night, just screaming, because whatever, next, you go on 4 interviews a day, multiply that times, years, and how many jobs have you had? I've only had maybe, like, counting commercials, about 180 jobs. Thousands of interviews. 4 a day, every year, years go by. I did classes. So back to the original point of the question, download a bunch of scenes. There's people online that do, Keith Coogan did years ago, like 10 years ago, he did like a scene a day, every day for a year. Every day he would cold read a scene, and he recorded it and he posted it on YouTube, on his YouTube channel, every day for a year. And I was like, damn, that's awesome. Whether they were good scenes or bad scenes, he did one every single day. And he's been acting since he was like 4 or 5. So somebody coming up in it, you don't need to join. You don't need to join a play. You don't need to do that. Just record yourself and see how stupid you look. And before you know it, like, you're not going to be as stupid. You're not going to look as bad. And then you can be like, damn, that was really good. At that point, that's when you start taking classes and you do showcase, start getting casting people, try and get an agent. And then the agent will start sending, once they think you're good enough, they'll start sending you out. And you'll be told no again and again. And maybe you'll get lucky. Some people like get their first role. Like they come to Hollywood, they go on an interview and get their first, their first interview is their first part, and they're lucky and they get discovered. And some people have to work at it, and they might take them a year to get that first job, but that work begets work. And one casting director will start bringing you in, and you won't even have to even interview for parts. They'll be like, Brad's perfect for that, bring him in. And that's what happened to me with my whole voiceover career. It really started off small, doing dubbing and other things and other commercials. And then the Charlie Brown thing came in about 3.5 years into my industry experience. And after that, it was so easy to get work for a while. It was voiceover work. On camera work, different story. It's weird when you become a teenager, but as far as voice work, yeah, it was amazing. So it was a good time.
Wonderful. So I lied. One more question.
Go for it.
What does Charlie Brown think of Buddycast?
I think that you would definitely be the pitcher in the next game. I think Buddycast is definitely the pitcher, as long as as long as he calls in sick, but other than that, man, you will definitely not be left field.
Awesome. I won't be the Lucy. Oh, or Lance Pepper.
Do your best, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a buddy here on Buddycast. It was a true pleasure. Stick around if you have a minute afterwards.
You got
but
it.
I have one favor to ask you before we
Sure.
close this episode. Whatever you do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, or even next year, please promise me you're going to go out and be someone's buddy.
I promise.
Awesome. For all my buddies out there, this is my buddy, Brad Kesten. Please watch the Charlie Brown and Snoopy show. You'll love it. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen. Thank you for joining us on another episode of everybody's favorite show.
Well, the days are going fast. Buddy, we've got to make them last. Buddy, before they've all gone past. Buddy, tune in to Buddycast. But don't be nutty, go make it, buddy, here on Buddycast.